In the flickering, fluorescent light of a lonely gas station, Eli stood behind the counter, his eyes heavy with the weight of another graveyard shift. The clock on the wall ticked relentlessly, each second echoing in the empty store. Working the graveyard shift's easy, until the same customer shows up every night at 3:30 a.m. and he never blinks. Eli had been working at this 24-hour gas station for 3 months now. A job he'd taken out of desperation after moving to this small town in the middle of nowhere. The long stretch of empty highway that passed by the station was rarely traveled, especially in the dead of night. Most nights, Eli's only company was the hum of the refrigerators and the occasional flicker of the neon open sign in the window. But tonight was different. As the clock struck 3:30 a.m., the bell above the door chimed, sending a chill down Eli's spine. He looked up, expecting to see a weary traveler or perhaps a local The man who entered was tall and thin, almost unnaturally so. His skin was pale, almost translucent in the harsh fluorescent light. But it was his eyes that caught Eli's attention. Or rather, the lack of movement in them. They were fixed, unblinking, staring straight ahead as the man glided towards the counter. "Good evening," Eli managed to say, his voice cracking slightly. The man didn't respond. He simply placed a single item on the counter. A pack of matches. Eli's hands shook as he rang up the purchase, stealing glances at the man's face. Those eyes, he thought. Why won't they blink? As quickly as he had appeared, the man was gone, leaving Eli alone once again in the empty store. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, his heart racing. It was just a strange customer, he told himself. Nothing to worry about. But the next night, at exactly 3:30 a.m., the man returned. And the night after that. And the night after that. Always at the same time. Always buying the same pack of matches. Always with those unblinking eyes. Eli began to dread the approach of 3:30 a.m. He found himself watching the clock, his palms sweating as the minutes ticked by. He considered quitting, but something kept him there. A morbid curiosity, perhaps, or a strange sense of duty. One night, as the man placed his usual pack of matches on the counter, Eli gathered his courage. "Sir," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "is there something I can help you with? Anything else you need?" The man's head turned slowly, those unblinking eyes fixing on Eli. For a moment, Eli thought he saw something flicker in their depths. Something ancient and hungry. Then, for the first time, the man spoke. "Not yet," he said, his voice a dry whisper that seemed to suck the warmth from the air. "But soon?" Eli's blood ran cold. He wanted to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there behind the counter. But he was frozen, trapped in the gaze of those unblinking eyes. The man left, and Eli collapsed against the counter, his legs weak. What did he mean by soon? What was coming? The next few nights passed in a blur of anxiety and sleepless days. Eli found himself jumping at every sound, his eyes constantly darting to the clock. But 3:30 a.m. came and went each night, and the man didn't appear. On the 7th night, as the clock ticked towards 3:30 a.m., Eli felt a sense of dread unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. The air in the store seemed to thicken, the shadows in the corners growing deeper. At exactly 3:30 a.m., the lights flickered and went out. Eli fumbled for his phone, using its dim light to navigate the suddenly pitch-black store. As he made his way towards the door, he heard it. The soft chime of the bell. In the glow of his phone, Eli saw him. The man stood in the doorway, his unblinking eyes now glowing with an otherworldly light. Behind him, where the empty highway should have been, Eli saw only darkness. A void that seemed to stretch into infinity. "It's time," the man said, his voice no longer a whisper but a chorus of countless voices speaking as one. "You're the last customer," Eli, the last soul before the dawn. Eli wanted to run, to hide, to wake up from this nightmare. But as the man, no. The thing reached for him with hands that seemed to stretch and distort in impossible ways. Eli knew there was no escape. The darkness swallowed them both, the gas station fading away like a mirage. And as Eli felt himself being pulled into that infinite void, he realized with horror that his eyes, too, had stopped blinking. In the days that followed, the small town buzzed with the mysterious disappearance of the night shift worker at the highway gas station. Search parties combed the area, but no trace of Eli was ever found. The security cameras showed nothing but static after 3:30 a.m. on that fateful night. As weeks turned to months, the gas station remained closed, its windows boarded up, the neon open sign dark and silent. But sometimes, on particularly dark nights, travelers passing by would swear they saw a flicker of light inside, and the silhouette of a tall, thin man standing motionless behind the counter. And if they looked closely, they might notice that the man's eyes never seemed to blink. The story of Eli and the mysterious customer spread through whispered conversations and online forums dedicated to the unexplained. Some dismissed it as an urban legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of working alone at night. Others saw it as evidence of something more sinister lurking in the shadows of our world. For those who worked the graveyard shift, the story took on a special significance. They found themselves glancing nervously at the clock as it approached 3:30 a.m., their hearts racing at every chime of a door or flicker of a light. In time, the gas station was torn down, replaced by a modern convenience store with bright lights and multiple employees on every shift. But still, locals avoided the place after midnight, and travelers reported an inexplicable sense of unease as they passed by. Years later, a young woman named Sarah took a job at the new store, working the overnight shift to help pay for college. She laughed off the old stories, dismissing them as small-town superstition. But one night, as the clock ticked towards 3:30 a.m., Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The lights seemed to dim, the shadows growing longer, and as she looked up, she saw a tall, thin man entering the store, his eyes fixed and unblinking. As he approached the counter, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. In his hand, he held a single pack of "Good evening," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "Will that be all?" The man's lips curled into a smile that was anything but friendly. "Not quite," he said, his voice a dry whisper that seemed to echo from somewhere far away. "You see, I'm still looking for the last customer." Sarah's hand hovered over the panic button beneath the counter, her heart pounding in her chest. But as she looked into those unblinking eyes, she felt herself being pulled in, falling into depths she couldn't comprehend. The clock on the wall struck 3:30 a.m., and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. In the morning, when the day shift arrived, they found the store empty. The security cameras showed only static, and Sarah's car still sat in the parking lot, covered in a thin layer of frost, despite the warm summer night. And so, the legend grew, whispered in hushed tones by those who worked the lonely hours between midnight and dawn. They spoke of the customer who never blinks, of the matchas that are never lit, and of the last sale that's always yet to come. For in the darkest hours of the night, when the world sleeps and shadows reign, there are some customers you pray will never walk through your door. Some transactions that, once begun, can never truly end. So if you find yourself working the graveyard shift in a lonely store on a deserted stretch of road, remember this tale. And when the clock strikes 3:30 a.m., whatever you do, don't look into the eyes of the last customer. Because once you do, you might find that you're no longer the one behind the counter. You might find that you've become part of the transaction, a soul to be bartered in a marketplace beyond mortal understanding. And your eyes, like those of the customer who never blinks, might remain forever open, staring into the infinite darkness that waits just beyond the veil of our world. still clocked in. If you're loving these midnight chills, drop a like and follow for more graveyard horror drops like this. Remember, in the world of the graveyard shift, every night could be your last, and every customer could be the one who never leaves.